first item of business is public comment. I believe we have someone.
Good afternoon, Kellum DeForest. I wanted to bring to your attention that this morning at 2 o'clock, the Ordinance Committee, under the title Neighborhood Preservation Ordinance 2-year review, the staff proposed what I consider fairly extensive changes to the Landmarks Commission, which I gather you did not know about. At least the two members I spoke to had never heard of that. These were going to be that items reflected on the historic section 2222, which is the landmark ordinance, that they were the principal changes they want to make is that, and this was passed by the Ordinance Commission with very little argument, because this is a very it is geared for developers so that they can keep their projects alive ad infinitum. And this was brought to your attention when the 517 Chapala Street project came back, and it only had a preliminary approval. They want to now have extensive extensions be provided by the community development director, and with no review by you. The argument is they're trying to make all the times for approval coincide from the various reviewing bodies. But this needs definitely, they say they're going to bring it to you on April 14th, and it goes to City Council April 22nd. So this is something that you definitely need to consider, and you could download the proposed new ordinances on your computer. Thank you.
Thank you, Kellum. Something of interest to us.
Maybe
Yes.
we could have staff look into that, give us an update, tell us what's going on.
I believe they're going to be coming to you in 2 weeks.
Okay.
To discuss it.
Very
Yeah,
well.
it was NPO update information
Okay.
that they were talking about this morning.
Have been in the loop.
The problem is
You have to be
they're
on
going
the
to consider it a fiat. Excuse me. The problem is they're going to present it to you as a fiat accompli without, although I'm sure you can make, I hope you'll be able to make changes, but they don't want you to, I think.
Thank you, Kellum. Well, we'll be interested to hear what the staff has to say about that.
This committee has already acted on it. Why would they bring it to us?
It still has to go to City Council.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I'm not sure what happened in the meeting. I would have to watch the video or find out from my supervisor what happened, and that was just this morning. So.
Okay, thank you.
May I ask, Duff, do we have a liaison to the Ordinance Committee?
Are you volunteering?
I thought we had one. I thought we had one.
Was it?
I don't think there. Let's see. There is not one appointed.
But I seem to remember that there has been one.
I think I remember Steve House actually being on that.
Robert Adams were on that ordinance.
I don't think I was in the committee. I think I was watching the tree ordinance.
go through.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Well, let's add that. Who wants to be on that? And we'll add it to the list.
Volunteers? Depends when the ordinance committee meets for me. It's a
They
problem.
meet on Tuesdays.
Every Tuesday?
No. Is it every? Yeah, actually, I think it is.
I can't commit to every Tuesday.
Well, they wouldn't have something affecting us on Tuesday. I feel that I got here this morning at 8:30 to do signs. I've done this now for a week.
Well, let's leave this sitting for a while and see if we have a volunteer every Tuesday or every other Tuesday, or I assume.
Probably would be maybe every couple of months they have something that might affect.
Okay.
If somebody were on the if somebody would attend, they would be on the distribution list, and you'd get the agenda every single time, and then you could see if it was something that involved, HLC or something, EPV. So maybe you wouldn't have to go every time, but
Right. I can request the ordinance committee to be on the mailing list at any rate. So I think I will do that, at least.
Then you could let us know.
Okay. Next item of business, unless there's further public comment, is approval of the minutes, March 17th, 2010.
So moved.
Are there any comments or revisions or additions?
Go ahead.
Is there... well, Mr. Schallenberger has his hand up.
Page 5. This is under the 13 East Cabrillo Boulevard. Under the motion, item 3, further explore the expression of the staircase. It was suggested that it not be a chimney plaster element. I don't recall that specifically, but it did bring to mind that there should have been some discussion of the tower, the actual Lighthouse Tower. I think that should be in the motion or minutes in some fashion. That
I think there was discussion on the subject of the chimney plaster thing,
Okay.
and I can't remember exactly what it was.
okay.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Maybe Mr. Peugeot does.
Further explore the expression of the staircase, especially at the roof, and then strike the rest of it.
That's okay.
No, I think there was a specific thing about that. I think Curio was saying that you didn't want that stair or whatever to terminate in becoming a chimney, which is not traditional. So I think that word chimney,
Yeah.
that word chimney should stay there. But
Yes.
The point of my comment, though, was that there was significant discussion as to the Lighthouse Tower being
Yes. I saw
reading
it.
more as its own standalone element now with the removal of the base massing. And I thought that we directed the applicant to study that in further detail.
Yeah.
I do remember that.
Excuse me. I do remember the discussion. I assume I missed it in my motion.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I'm looking at my handwritten summary of what you said, and I don't see anything about the tower, but I do remember that discussion.
I remember specifically the applicant asking for direction. Do you want the tower to be more integrated into the structure or not? And you answer the consensus, which is no, we leave that up to you.
Yes.
That exchange did take place at the end of the motion.
All right. Then I would assume it should be left out of the motion. It should be left out.
But item 3 should be in there still because that was
Yes.
different.
Yes, we'll leave that. So there is no change to this motion,
While we're on
So
there,
there's no change then to that,
as far as I know.
correct? Okay, thank
Yes.
you.
Okay.
while we're on that, can I make a brief comment? It's like a word.
Go ahead.
Okay. That same item 5, it says provide first and second floor roof plan sections, more elevations, and more descriptive photographs, and I think we should be clear about descriptive photographs. It should read descriptive photographs of existing conditions.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, Ms. Murray?
On page 8, under item 6, down in the middle of the page where it says row votes, is how many commissioners are comfortable with the full orientation is proposed. I was one of the opposed. Okay. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Any further comments or revisions to items?
But you know what, I still had a 5-2 vote on, in my handwritten notes. So it was Peugeot, and did anybody else abstain that we know of? Yeah.
I actually asked Miss Murray, I said, Miss Murray, and she said no. So I thought she had abstained. That she
No,
was
I said
not
I
voting.
was. No, I said I was not abstaining. Sorry.
She meant no, opposed.
No.
Yes.
You're opposed.
Oh, no, you were opposed to
No,
it.
I said no. I was not abstaining. Sorry.
But you were opposed.
Yeah.
Right. I remember you were opposed.
Does that resolve your vote, Jonathan?
Did that resolve-
Was Sharp possibly out of the room at that time?
I don't think so.
No.
I mean, he voted
What
against
about
on the
drury?
second one.
Did you count drury? It's just going to be.
Oh. I guess that's important.
I'm sorry.
Is it resolved in terms of
Count is
number?
fine.
The count is fine? Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Mr. Sudi.
I have a couple. On page 5, item number 2, under the motion number 3, I'd like to add further explore the expression of the staircase, especially at the roof. Yeah. If that's okay with everyone else. I think that clarifies that a little
That's
bit more.
a good idea.
On page 7, item 5, under the motion, item number 1, the applicant was complimented for the upgrade and vast improvement over existing conditions. Number 2, parkways instead of parkway. Explore expanding the tree wells. Add the word tree. Number 4, roof gardens. Revise or demonstrate that the proposed trees and umbrellas would not be visible, period. Item 6, northeast property line planter. Vines were suggested. The word property line planter. And then page 8, item 6, under the motion, number 1, the length of the swimming pool might be best extended so as to relate better with the north-south Yock access.
Oh, that's great.
Axes. Yock, capital Y-O-C-H,
That's
axes.
Excellent. Thank you.
A-X-I-S. That's it.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Adams.
Back to page 7, item 5. That comment number 7 was just a comment. I don't think that needs to be suggested. I made that comment at the Upland Hotel we went to for inspiration. It was just a passing comment. I don't know that it's that important. Yeah, son? Something's wrong upstairs.
It was part of the comments that
Yeah.
the chair
Okay.
had included.
And I
so.
think he
Fine.
understood the word suggestion.
That's fine. Okay. And then, let's see, item 6 on page 8. Okay. Okay, in the motion, item 4, you're calling this the pool perimeter enclosure. And it was really walls. I think walls fits better in that. It was really the walls as we saw them were not acceptable.
So pool perimeter walls.
Yeah.
Pool perimeter walls or fences, that would be more clear than perimeter.
Yeah.
Because it had to do with, I believe the issues had to do with walls sort of bisecting those areas.
You still want perimeter, or you want perimeter taken out?
I
don't
would.
even like.
Say perimeter wall.
Yeah.
I don't even really like perimeter.
He
but
said walls
is-
was better than perimeter, so it's changing a different word.
I like walls and fences for that, and I would take out perimeter and put enclosure because it was the whole it was a whole schematic of how they had walls. Some of it didn't go around the perimeter.
State it how you want it.
Okay, study alternative materials for the walls and fences for the pool and the music room patio area, period.
Is that acceptable to everybody?
Uh-huh.
This is what, I need to make sure that it doesn't change the motion.
It doesn't.
It doesn't change the
Yeah.
intent of the motion.
Great.
All those may have a motion to accept these minutes
I
with
think
the...
we did that quite
We
a
did?
while ago.
Okay. With all the changes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? That motion carries. Next item of business is the consent calendar.
Yes, Madam Chair, item A, 435 State Street was final approval as submitted. Item B, 410 State Street was continued 2 weeks to the full board. Item C, 118 State Street was final approval with conditions, and those were reviewed by Commissioners Schallenberger and Adams.
I'll make a motion to ratify the consent calendar.
A second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Suding abstains on item C.
Opposed? Abstained, Mr. Suding. Next item of business are announcements.
Madam Chair, let's see. Commissioner Sharp's absent today. And the project at 13 East Cabrillo Boulevard, which was continued 2 weeks to today's meeting, has been indefinitely postponed at the applicant's request.
Wait, what?
It's not on here.
Oh, it's not on the agenda. Okay, never mind.
It's just for the public. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Is there any other announcements? Oh, yes, Mr. Drew.
There's a Milford Zorns retrospective at the Wilding Museum in Los Olivos that opened and runs through June 6th. He was a contemporary of Ray Strong's and the wonderful watercolors of the West and Southwest. I highly recommend that. And on business note, I'm leaving for Ireland on the 8th of April and won't be back till May 15th. As directed in Miss Candace. I know. I'm sorry.
I would respectfully suggest that Commissioner Drury bring back things from Ireland for us.
Maybe liquid things.
He can't bring a pint on the plane, Commissioner Adams.
We can bring whiskey on.
I don't know who suggested him.
All right. Next item is subcommittee reports. If there are none, let's go to the first item, which is the archaeology report for 512 Bath Street.
Madam Chair, Dr. Glassow reviewed the report and the appendix and concluded that the investigation supports the report's conclusions and recommendations that because the proposed project would not have the potential to result in significant impacts on prehistoric or historic archaeological resources, no mitigation measures are required, and the standard condition regarding discovery of unanticipated archaeological resources applies and shall be on the plans prior to issuance of building permit.
I think I have public comment on this.
Right.
Okay. I will ask
What's
for
the
public
address?
comment. It's 512 Bath Street.
Yeah.
Introduce yourself for the
Oh,
record.
Kellum DeForest. Just this is more of a question than a. Are the existing stone walls on this property that this property once or still has beautiful stone perimeter walls on Bath Street? Are they part of the archaeological report, or would they be addressed at a later time? Thank you.
Madam Chair, we're going to let the applicant respond to that.
All right.
Lisa Plowman.
Madam Chair, members of the HLC, I'm Lisa Plowman with Piker Group, and the stone walls are going to be preserved. They were reviewed as part of the ABR package, and they'll be part of the new project. Okay. But they're not reviewed in the historic or archaeological.
Right. Thank you.
Make a motion to approve the report as submitted.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? That motion carries. Next item of business is the Historic Structures Report for 3626 San Remo. Hello, Alex.
Hello, Ms. Cole.
Nice to see you. Nice to see you.
You too.
Thank you.
Good. I'm Alexandra Cole, preparer of the report, and this is the owner, Nancy Madsen. Good afternoon. Thank you.
Jake, I'm assuming I'm going to hear from you.
Okay, when I went out and looked at this house, it's a very unusual house on a very large piece of property in a neighborhood that's been pretty much cut up into subdivisions and apartments, and it has almost like a park-like setting, so that's why I requested the report. I didn't really have much information on the house itself. It's an Edwards Plunkett Now house. As the report clearly indicates, it features a lot of their bells and whistles that they're typically known for in their architecture. One of the unusual things about the house is that the front portion of the house that you see from the street is almost like a stage set. And if you go around to the back of the house, you actually see the old it was a one-story wooden frame vernacular house that was added onto to create the imposing house that you see today. The proposal is a 4-lot subdivision. Like I said, it's a fairly large piece of property, and I want to create 4 parcels and build, build 3 additional dwelling. I apologize for my voice. I'm having a little trouble with it today. 3 other dwelling units on the property. We had Alex Cole prepare a report. She's here to answer any questions that you might have regarding the report and the results. And I apologize. I'm having a Parkinson's moment right now.
Sorry.
I'm going to get some water.
Thank you.
May I just state one thing?
Yes.
Thank you, since Jake is going to get some water. As you saw from the report, it's a peculiar house, a peculiar mixture, and I found that the facade was very much Edwards, Plunkett, and Howell, and that was significant. And that the view from the street was significant, and because the applicant was proposing to maintain that front facade and inward to include the door and the curved staircase, that's as far wrapping around the corner, and preserving that view from the street, that there would not be an impact.
Thank
so
you.
Those are my conclusions for that reason.
Is there any public comment on this report?
There you go, Kellen.
Thank you. Yes, I just wanted, Callum DeForest, I just wanted to reiterate that this is an important house, and I want to inquire, it seems that there are not too many Edwards and Plunkett houses extant. They seem to be vanishing, and I think they need to be saved because Mr. Plunkett was a very important architect and very inventive, and this, at least maybe the back, something can be done with, and it shouldn't be hidden by development. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeForest. I'm going to ask for questions from the Commission.
Madam Chair? I just had a question which I wanted to ask Alex about on page 9.
Yes.
The second line of the third paragraph refers to the Hornbach residence. I was wondering if that wasn't Hombach, Hombach.
Good question, which I can't answer. But
I believe it. I believe it. Hombach. He was a prominent local doctor.
All right, Hombach.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
I went to school with his daughter, so.
So you should know. Thank you. Thanks for that correction.
I'm not saying it was a correction, I just
Oh, all right, I
thought
will
maybe
look
it
it up.
was.
Thank
Okay.
you. I will go look it up.
Are there any other questions from the commission? Ms. Murray?
One question, but it probably will be also covered in the comments, but I just wanted to have Alex's thoughts on it. On page 11, on the top paragraph, you talked about the Plunkett, their architecture and how they usually did everything all around all the 4 elevations. And I was wondering if that could be included as a recommendation for the new building. In other words, if they take out the back part, that would be a recommendation that they should do the other 3 elevations to be more in keeping with the Plunkett Edwards design. Anyway, you say here that you mentioned all the different features, but you also said that what's the reason why this house probably doesn't rise to the level of landmark is because the rear side and the other parts are not all around the design. And
So that's a design question, right?
Design question.
That
No.
now this one goes to the single family
All right.
for review. Is it part of your recommendation then that you could
It may
put
be
that
part
in the
of ours.
recommendation
Yeah.
when it goes? Because I think that's a good one.
Yeah.
Is that what?
You mean making the other 3 sides compatible
With the Edwards
with
and
the front
Plunkett.
facade?
The
Yes.
front facade,
Yes.
since that was their origin.
Which I believe Gordon is doing anyway because he likes that. But is that what happens? Is that how
I think
it
it would
works?
be in our
You can-
recommendations
I'm
to
sorry.
SFUB, correct?
Yeah, Madam Chair, that can be made as part of the motion as a recommendation.
Thank you.
Oh, good. Okay. Thanks, Marina.
The other question I have for staff is, since this house is structural merit worthy, would that review come to us for this house, or would just go to the NPO?
Well, if the house was on the potential list, or we were going to designate it, then it would come to you for review. It's staff's opinion that because of the alterations that are going to be made and the disruption of the site, that I don't have any intention of pursuing designation unless the board or the designation subcommittee wishes to challenge that. So therefore, the single-family design board would be in charge of reviewing both the changes to this house and the 3 additional houses on the site.
Yes, Schellenberg.
Did the report cover lots 1 and 2 in terms of the historic site? It looks like it was focused. I mean, the only attachment here is showing lots 3 and 4, but the language of the report calls 4 new equal parcels. So is that a separate report, or?
That was not part of the report, just because I was reviewing the extant building.
I understand, but isn't it a historic structures/sites report? And this has come up in previous reviews, so I don't have any problem with the report. I just wondered what it covered.
Yeah,
Right.
that's why I was asking.
It's just the
this.
two,
Okay.
because that was the streetscape.
Thank you.
Yeah, but because of that, that's why I was asking the staff whether if the house is eligible for structure of merit, then it usually it doesn't matter.
A response? Okay. I move to comments now. Perhaps Ms. Murray, you would like to make your comment.
I would like to make a motion to accept the report, and to add that on page 11, where there's a statement saying that most of the Edward designs usually were carried all the way around all 4 elevations. that the proposed additions to the house, new additions to the house, be in that tradition, and also that this property be placed on the potential list of historic resources, since it is not on there, and that the subcommittee and the HLC may have an opportunity to ask the owner's consent for a designation of structure of merit. I don't know. Those are maybe too long.
I'm sorry, can I
Yeah.
respond to that? If you do place it on the potential list, then the purview would come to this commission for review of the project. Well, for the house and probably for the house in front, because that's the one that would most likely impact the project. But as I said, because of the drastic change in the site by the subdivision and the addition of these 4 houses, I don't see us realistically coming back and designating the house as a structure of merit, because it's just going to be changed. The setting is what really made it important, in my opinion, was that large open front yard, which is now going to have a house in it that becomes the backyard to one of the other units, and it's going to get trees and swing sets and stuff is going to happen that I don't think realistically we would come back later and want to designate the building as a structure of merit. So I prefer not to put it on the potential list, but I will do of course, we'll do whatever the commission deems they wish to do.
And Madam Chair, you wouldn't be able to have the motion worded in that manner to place it on the list. It can't be done like that. It needs to be a recommendation that the designations, let's see, it needs to be...
Forwarded to the subcommittee.
I'll write this all out. It needs to be, here it is. If it's worthy of structure merit status, the motion needs to be that the HLC accepts the report with the recommendation to forward this to the designation subcommittee for possible designation.
Okay.
If you keep that, unless you rescind that after listening to what Jake had to say about it.
Yeah, okay. The report does recommend a structure of merit for the facade.
I'll say something here, but it's only for this facade, and that's what makes this an anomalous position, where I think it's very difficult that, for the very reason I singled out the facade, because the rest is just not eligible for that, and it just seems that it would be an odd kind of decision that the designation subcommittee would be making, and there are a number of other Edwards, Plunkett, and Howell houses, many in Hope Ranch, in some of the pictures, some in Montecito, that I think would be far more worthy. We just haven't seen them yet. But in that sense, that's why I was making that distinction, that truly this one, it's only the front, and it would be very difficult, I think, to make that finding, because you'd have to consider the whole part.
Madam Chair?
Yes? Okay.
Along those lines, if the property were staying like it is currently intact, then I would say yes, it would be the desire to designate the property structure of merit. Because of the uniqueness of the site within the neighborhood. Quite frankly, I wish the city had the money to buy this piece of property and turn it into a park, because it would be a lovely, incredibly lovely park. But we don't have that money, so that's not the issue. What I'm trying to avoid doing by putting a lot of things on the potential list is we had the potential list got very cluttered and got kind of unyielding and unmanageable. And if you remember last year, we had a cleanup, if you will.
Yes.
A serious amended number of properties were taken off of the potential list in order to try and give the properties that are on the potential list, they're just, they're stepping apart. This house, because of what's going to happen in the process of the new project, I really don't, like I said, I really don't think that the commission would ultimately want to designate it. And so therefore the easier, and we've done this before with other buildings around town where the project involved demolition of the house, and it would even qualify as a structure of merit. So it wouldn't be. There's no precedent for it. The house will still be there in some form. It will have its character-defining features, but you lose that visibility pretty much from. What makes it now is when you look at it from the street, across that broad lawn, and there, you know, it's a pretty magnificent house right at the crest. Like I said, when the new house goes in that's going to be in front of it, you're going to partially, even though it's designed to provide that angle view, it is a backyard. It's going to end up with stuff that backyards get, fences, who knows what, and hedges are going to ultimately grow, and so the house won't be visible like it is currently.
Thank you. I assume Ms. Murray,
Madam Chair, I have a question for the applicant.
Yes.
So am I given to understand that from plate 7 through 11, those buildings will be eliminated? Those additions will be all gone?
Plate 7 through 11. Yes.
North elevation, west elevation?
Yes. Plate 7 through 11. Yes.
They'll all be...
Yes, and so if you look at plate 11 on the right-hand side, you see that curved wall that comes around.
Yes.
That's the curving wall of the staircase, and so it will go. That piece will stay, and then when you get to the two-story elements, those will go.
Oh, thank you.
Ms. Murray, would you like to reconsider your motion?
Yes, I guess we'll do that.
So can we simply have the motion reread
Just
from
say,
Gabrielle and
we
rescind?
Just restate it because nobody seconded it. So
We
All right.
accept the report as presented
With the recommendation?
with a recommendation that the new additions will be in keeping with the Edwards and Plunkett's design.
I second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? That motion carries. Thank you.
Would you like to say anything?
I don't know if you need to hear from me, but I
Oh,
appreciate
please.
your
Please.
consideration.
Nancy.
I'm the owner and applicant, and this house has been in our family for 30 years. We love it. We love the facade. We love the staircase. We had wedding with the bride coming down the bouquet from the balcony. We definitely want to keep that look. And the architects have been very meticulous about trying to preserve the view corridor itself from the street. If we're allowed to put the front house, it will be smaller. It'll be off to the left as you're facing. Hopefully it really won't show when we're trying to put limits on fencing and so forth to keep the view corridor as it is. We're also, by the way, as you probably know, going to be restoring the creek to natural status. So it's going to be a fantastic project. And
That's
we
wonderful.
are going to keep everything we can as is. We're keeping the doors. I've got them restored and cared for right now. Light fixture, the front door, everything that can be kept will be kept. Everything that needs to be repaired will be repaired. So, and I will be the one living in that house. And I appreciate your consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you for your stewardship. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Next item of business will be the concept review continued for 1221, 1235 State Street. This is the third concept review. Aha. While you're getting set up, I'm going to read the motion from February 17th, 2010, continued 2 weeks with the following comments. Applicant directed to obtain the original color of the Hawley building and to return to the Commission with a sample of that color. A majority of the Commission believe the proposed faux stone treatment is inappropriate, and some also believe the trompe-l'oeil treatment is inappropriate within the context of the neighborhood, the building, and adjacent buildings. Return with an alternate acceptable color palette with PL 180, PL 179, and G 189 colors to be eliminated as possible choices. Will you introduce yourselves?
I'm Lori Smythe. I'm the rep for the owner of the project.
Welcome. I'm Ron Esposito. I'm the designer.
Thank you. Do you mind turning on your...
Sorry.
Turn the middle. The middle. Put the middle. That's it. Thank you.
Oh.
Start over.
Go. I think we're okay.
So what we brought back is Ron and I went out to the building, the Hawley building, and we scraped the paint off. The plaster was actually peeling, so it was rather easy. And what we discovered we were kind of delighted with, and that the original color is very much keeping with the palette that we were exploring. And
I'm sorry.
Oh, there you go.
What was really interesting is as we scraped along, we found terracotta, we found yellow, it was really interesting to see that white was really sort of the latest color that was used on the building, and the colors had been several very bold colors in the past. And the upper Holly building, I think, was the area that you were of most concern that had the historic designation. And so we went upstairs, and that's where the plaster was peeling at the upper Holly building, and that's where we discovered that color. And so that's what it's currently painted, and that is
Flip side.
Right.
And below this, on the other side, was actually the cement of the plaster. There was no other color left once this peeled up. Then this was down at the bottom of the Holly building is where these scrapings were. We couldn't find any plaster falling off. So we did the scrapings in these areas and found, well, I guess, is that the same on the lower end, or is that?
It's the same.
Yeah.
That was up above.
Yeah, this
that
is
was
up
down
above.
below.
And
That
this
was
is
up above. And what I did was I reworked the rendering because it was a lot more peach before. I reworked the rendering to match. I actually made it a little lighter, as you can see, because you suggested, make it a little lighter and softer. So I went lighter and softer. This was the Starbucks facade. There is a difference between the scrapings that you saw below. This one's the Starbucks building, but we're talking about this one right now.
So what we tried to do is put together the entire plan of how this project, after our meeting, so that the colorways fit within what the committee seems reasonable. We've muted things down, and then your request to try and figure out the Upper Holly building, which we've done. We've muted down the Starbucks building, which from the original, this is the scraping of what we found, that it was a terracotta and sort of a limey yellow-green color. But we have proposed, I don't know if you remember the last time we were in here, it was a stronger green color, so we've sort of muted that down quite a bit. And
I went to the PL 142 and then lightened that up. We were a lot darker before.
And then, what was kind of funny is right down the road, the Starbucks on the corner, I believe, of Coda and State is this color. So there is already samples, and we're proposing to do something in lighter coloration than that. And what we're really hoping, in even though we're still in conceptual, is that with good weather approaching and that sort of thing, that we can maybe get a final today on approval of the color choices we've used. We've tried to present to you the colors that the committee seems that you would like us to go towards, and we'd love for you to consider giving us final today.
This is...
Madam Chair, there's another thing that I just want to point out for folks in the audience, particularly Kellen, and I don't know how it's appearing on the screens at home, but the colors are definitely different as they appear on the screen than they appear in person. I just wanted people to...
Yes,
the colors are a little bit
you're
more lively than what actually appears on the screen. It may be different with the television, I'm not sure.
Thank you.
Please adjust your television.
The committee had also asked that I do another chart, chip layout for the... And so basically, where are we? I went through the entire project and re-chipped it, and it's quite a bit softer than... These were the base colors before. And this is where I am now, which is quite a bit softer.
So take that away.
Take that away.
Take that away.
Thank you.
Okay.
We appreciate how far you've come.
Take
it away.
But I've come so far.
All right, are you done with your presentation?
How about the...
Before we go to questions, are we done with
This is just the second floor.
No, right, but the elevations are...
Oh, this is what we had from before.
That was prior, so that needs to go bye-bye. So I guess to finish our presentation is we've really taken into consideration what the committee recommended for us to do. We've tried to follow all of your recommendations, and we did the scrapings, and we found some pretty interesting colors.
Do I have any public comment? Seeing none, let's go to questions from the commission then.
Okay, I'm just going to jump in here. Where are you using, this looks like the strongest color.
That's the strongest color,
in
right?
the
It's in the inside
courtyard.
It's a wall that's in the very middle of the project. It's actually, well, it's right
Behind
there.
Bouchon, okay.
Behind Bouchon. Okay.
So I have a question. What happened with the trompe l'oeil and all the other textures, faux textures? Are they still there or not?
We got rid of the, if you look at the drawing, remember the lower baseboard was done in trompe l'oeil. I got rid of that.
And there was something on the arch of one of them.
There was on the sushi restaurant. That's not here, but the sushi restaurant, I did the same thing to the posts. I got rid of the trompe l'oeil on that, but to the base, yeah.
And there was some that looked like a stone arch, a sandstone arch. That's gone too. Okay.
So this is no longer part of the, is it, or is this?
This is a photograph of this.
Okay.
I wanted you to have that.
Thank you.
Yeah, that helps because it's got the numbers on it.
Yeah, it's not exact, but it's pretty close.
Now, the other strong color you have is this. Does that
That's
occur
this
in
one
this
right here. It's just opposite
same
to
courtyard?
that. Yeah, I've subdued about 30% of the opaqueness to the entire project, and then I thought just in the very center it'd be nice to pop just those two buildings just a little bit so it drew people in. And the whole idea here is to bring people to the facade, because it's pretty, pretty boring right now.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Suding.
But if I'm understanding the access way again now, you never really see those a whole lot together, do you? These two strong colors.
Not really. I mean, you have to. You're facing one way or you're facing the other. If you get up on the upper story, you can see both of them together.
I think if you
stood here, you'd see them both.
Sure.
You would.
Right.
Yeah. And get a glimpse of that.
But that's on the interior of a building. If you stand there, you're not, unless you're looking through a window. But okay, let me just retrace here. This is the public access through here, that way.
No, this is a hall. This is a walkway right here.
This is off the parking lot.
You said standing here.
This is the courtyard.
Standing here, you'd see this and that one.
Yeah, if you stand here in the courtyard, if you stand right about here, you'll get a glimpse of that side and a little bit of that back right there.
I stand corrected. Okay. Thank you.
What we attempted to do, and Ron did, I think, a beautiful job of, is even though we have, quite a varying of color, they're all very complementary to each other and look good next to each other. And, that was, if you do see a building past the other building, I think they'll complement each other quite well.
Madam Chair?
Yes?
Have you finished questions?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Oh, you're waiting for your comment. I do have another question, which is, can you assure me, following Commissioner Peugeot's question, that there are no applied stone, faux stone, or anything else of that type going on any of these
No
elevations?
applied faux stones.
Or trompe l'oeil, or...
None other than what we saw from before and we discussed.
How about faux finishes?
The faux
Let it finish answering that question.
I'm sorry.
the faux finishing. The only faux finishing we have is this detail right here.
You mean it's an applied faux?
It's an applied faux. Yeah.
Material or paint?
It's just paint.
Please look
this
at that,
right here.
everybody.
And this right here, that sort of division,
And
sort of blocky, supposed to look like blocky stones.
it's just a very simple block sandstone. The building is extremely boring, and it goes along. Yeah, there's only between these two windows, and then there's nothing back here.
Thank you. If we are done with questions, can I have comments, please?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I'm absolutely delighted that you found the color in the Holly building, Dr. Holly building. And I think that that's going to be very nicely done. I wish I had spoken out more before on this, but it's too late. This reminds me very much of the sort of thing that went on in the 60s. That there were a lot of people who were coming in with wonderful color palettes, which had nothing to do with Santa Barbara. And I have always felt very strongly, and I'm not speaking about the Holly Building because that's great. We've always sort of considered ourselves a white city and used just smaller areas for a lot of paint color. I thought I had it on. Okay, sorry. Anyway, to go back, I'm very pleased about the Holly Building. I think that's going to work out well. However, as I said a moment ago, this kind of reminds me of the sort of thing we had here in the 60s when people came in and wanted to do very nice but very un-Santa Barbara color mixtures. And I would hate to have us lose our basic white city. I think that, for example, scraping some of these other buildings doesn't really matter because it's only the Holly Building we were really concerned about. So I personally am not going to vote for this. Much as I appreciate the Upper Holly, I think you've done great on that. But I'm having real trouble with this amount of color.
Thank you.
You're taking up the better part of a block. Thank you.
Further comments?
I just want to comment. I think the applicant's come a long way in this, but I'm still looking for more subtlety. I feel like the paint colors are very nice. I appreciate the variety, but I think it should the paint should be the chroma, the hues should be softer to be compatible with the more white buildings. I think you've come a long way, so I want to really appreciate your effort, but it's not subtle enough for my taste, but that's just my opinion.
Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Mr. Drury.
Once again, a delayed question. My mind doesn't work very quickly. The palette that we're shown, is that going to be the same palette on the facades along State Street? That,
Well, here.
or just the interior?
No.
No.
Look here. Stand here.
Yes, I'm
Yeah.
talking about the colors that are on the interior. We're
No,
looking at-
these are the colors on State Street,
Okay,
right here.
all right. So that being said, there's very little indirect or very little direct light on the interior courtyards, and I think that the idea of having slightly more saturated colors in the courtyard is fine. I think it provides it makes them cozier and I think more inviting. Is there an opportunity, therefore, to take those same colors and just lift them, tint them up? Because I think that what I'm hearing from my fellow commissioners is a displeasure with the amount of variations of value along State Street. I'm not a fan of white buildings per se. I think there is room within. It's not any building can be any color you want as long as it's white. I think it can be any color you want as long as it's within a certain range of value. But if you lifted those same colors that you've got on your sheet, I
On
think
State Street.
along State Street,
Using
on the
the
facade,
same colors
the
only
biggest
on State
pieces of
Street.
color would be on those buildings from World of Wood up to Starbucks. And I think if those were lifted, meaning just lifted with white into a higher tint, and cooling them, there's also less light. I'm not sure how much. In fact, I'm quite sure now that I think about it that side of State Street never does get direct sunlight.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
No,
it doesn't.
Because that's where we used to sit for Fiesta, so we wouldn't get baked. So if whatever goes there will be lit by reflected light only, and I think if the value was just made a little cooler, I think that might be more palatable. Thank you.
I'm sorry, can I clarify? Are you saying use these colors, lift them with white, but apply them in the interior?
That's what I'm saying.
I see. Thank you. Further comments?
Chair, I'd like to move this application, see where try to narrow down the areas of where there is not universal acceptance. It seems like we're okay with the colors on the inside. Is that correct or not?
Okay with colors on the inside?
Right.
Not
I'm
so
trying
far
to gauge,
from what I've heard.
Oh, okay. I thought we had, I mean, this is the third review, and I thought we had given the applicant some direction. And I'm trying to figure out where, what is the agreement. It appears that the more historic building, we are fine with the colors on that, right? That's correct.
But the Holly building.
Right.
Holly, which is
The Holly building is just this building here.
Which is this color.
Yes.
This color.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're okay with that, right?
And I just
we do a straw vote?
Wait, I
Can
mean,
we, please don't make this dialogue until we're done with comments.
Okay.
And then we'll, all right, thank
and
you.
it also, I don't recall a big disagreement to the colors on the inside from the two previous reviews. Am I correct?
Mm-hmm. That's not correct. I thought the insides were just too much for the inside.
Sorry. Okay. And my comment on the exterior, I mean, I'm fine with the colors on the inside. With the exterior, I think if they're either white or they're not white, I think if we keep directing the applicant to tone them down, you're going to end up with some pastel mix that is not going to be, So I think some buildings are white and some buildings have color, and on State Street you have both cases. And maybe what the commission should decide is which buildings should be white. I mean, if they are all of them, or perhaps and concentrate on that, rather than trying to direct the applicant to keep toning down every single one of them, because it's going to end up with some kind of very awkward discoloration.
I will, just a moment. Looking back on the concept review number 1, motion number 4 was to restrict and tone down the color palette. Motion number 3 was for you to review the El Pueblo Viejo guidelines to see what is acceptable. So there were comments made then. At the second concept review, as I said, we mentioned several colors, and it was to return with an alternate acceptable color palette. So it seems like our motions reflect that there was a desire to keep toning this down as much as possible. But I'll keep going with comments. Yeah.
I just wanted to point out, too, that the Holly building is a Victorian-era building, and so there is justification for using a color other than white on that building, such as they're showing. And that maybe the distinction can be made between the Spanish colonial revival architecture and the Victorian architecture, which would allow that splash of color that you all are pushing for, but do it on the appropriate buildings. And then, as Louise says, the buildings that are meant to be white with a red tile can stay white with a red tile. And everybody gets a little bit of something.
Thank you. Mr. Studing?
Chair, I'm fine with most of the colors that are on the interior. I have a little bit of a problem with this yellow. It's almost a peachy color. Going around the outside of the building on State Street and Victoria Street, I'm fine with the color proposed for the Holly building. I'm fine with the color of the building proposed for the Victoria's Court entrance. The other two buildings, and as it wraps the corner here, this building here as it wraps the corner, and the sushi building, I think would be better off in a white color. On the corner of the alley or entry into the parking lot, the color you have proposed I have no problem with. So I like most of it.
I'm going to ask someone to make a motion about this because I'm getting very diverse information, and I'm not.
I would support Mr. Student's motion.
Okay.
What was that? I couldn't hear that.
The colors on the interior of the property are acceptable, with the exception of the yellow, and I'm not sure what color that is, and if we could identify it, that would be very helpful.
I think it's this one right
here.
here.
PL 126. P as in Phil. Then the color of the Holly building is acceptable. The color of the Victoria Court building is acceptable. At the Victoria Court entrance is acceptable. The color of the Arigato and the Starbucks are not acceptable.
Are you suggesting white?
I am suggesting white, strongly suggesting white.
Would this be acceptable to this color that I'm using there, to use that there, this white?
Strongly suggesting white.
We can do that without.
Yeah.
It's like in the
That's
final
the best
approval
way
with
to do
white.
it.
And,
All right.
and then, and actually, if I may add to that motion, that the use of paint to emulate stone there on the corner of the Starbucks isn't acceptable. I understand how you're concerned with the plainness of that corner, but that's what makes buildings so much more attractive in Santa Barbara, is the simplicity of that.
I
So-
have a motion and a second. All those in
Wait,
favor?
Madam Chair.
One
Yes.
more. Yeah, one more comment. We need to redefine the yellow color so we have a final approval.
You were saying it looked peachy, and I just didn't know.
I'm sorry, that was the wrong word. It was PL126 that I'm having a problem with.
So what I'm saying, if we can change it to another color so we can have a final
I
approval.
see what you're saying. Okay.
So what would the applicant would like instead of that yellow?
How about that one?
Fine. Which one? They all work together. They all work together. So if we replace 125 with PL 134.
No, PL 126.
Oh, I'm sorry. With PL 134.
So 126 is going to 134.
Right.
Yeah.
And white
I thought PL 126 was going to Starbucks.
PL126 is.
Yeah.
And replace Starbucks with PL 96.
I thought Starbucks was white.
I think I'd like to have that motion read back so that we know what we are about to vote on. No. I'm glad you brought this to this.
Okay. I don't actually have a motion, but I have the comments. 1, colors on the interior of the property are acceptable, with the exception of the PL 126,
Correct.
which shall be changed to PL 134.
Correct.
2, the color of the Holly building, I don't know how to spell Holly building,
H.
But you can just
is acceptable.
the whole thing would be accepted with whatever changes you
Oh.
want to change, and then you would just say, final approval as submitted with the condition that color, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
to
simplify
the-
it. Yeah.
So 2, the color of the Holly building is acceptable. 3, the color of the Victoria Court entrance is acceptable. 4, the color of the Arigato and Starbucks buildings shall be white.
Correct.
Yes.
5, the use of color to emulate stone at the edge of Starbucks is not acceptable.
That was my motion.
that white should read P1.
PL 96 is acceptable as the white.
May I? Just one thing, one concern.
We didn't get that.
1,
PL 96 is acceptable as the white. Is that correct?
For Arigato and
Starbucks.
Yeah.
Starbucks had
We are asking not to have that allowed.
It's pure white. Right.
Correct.
Not to do no.
Yes, no faux.
May I suggest as the designer, though, that we use 2 different whites instead of the same white on the same, within this distance?
Why?
And there's a couple other colors that are extremely light that would appear to be white. They're just not exactly the same.
What a vast range.
And we have a motion on this.
Yeah, we do, and it's been seconded.
And if you want to change it, you're fine to come back with that.
Okay.
All right. All those in
I-
favor?
I just want to weigh in, is unity is going to be important. There's already a variety of colors, so unity is going to be very important here.
And also, I think with the Holly building expressed that in its real color, and then the 2 wings the same, I think would be highlighted.
All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Schallenberger abstains.
So this is final.
I don't
Well,
think
that's
we
the
have
question.
the actual sample there,
This
but
is
that's
final.
pretty close. The chip, where's the chip?
Yes. You didn't think you'd get there, did you?
where's the
Oh, where is it?
Oh, we found the chip.
All right.
Did you make a copy of this?
I don't have a copy of it. I will make a copy for you. This
Okay,
because
well,
I had
this
to
is what
take
we
a
went
picture
through.
of it.
Yeah, this
and
is
that's
what we went through before.
Okay, you needed
remember?
to
I
take
couldn't
a
let you take it out.
But we didn't know that you were going to final it, so.
But you requested
The
final.
thing about
Yes, we
State
want
Street
final.
was that
We want
if you're
final.
going down, that side was never used commercially because it was the side. No, yeah, it was the sunny side. Everybody walked on the other
Do
side.
that, and then if it's not okay.
But that's changed. But it's interesting that a lot of the businesses on that side don't do as well.
Thank you.
Not that any of them are doing well.
Sorry.
Before we're done, there's one more issue that.
Nice to have gotten that out of here.
Which is the entryway that was a violation that is on the same permit.
It's technically the upper Holly building.
Susan?
Susan, apparently they want to reopen the item because of the illegal entryway.
Entryway that is attached to this permit that's in violation.
Oh, we forgot about that. Yeah. Is this what you're proposing?
It's a ceramic.
Right. You know what? We should reopen that. We just take a vote
I'd like
on
to
this.
reopen 220,
Sorry. I just-
1221 to
Thank
1235
you.
State Street in order to talk about the installation of the entryway tile.
It's attached to this permit, so in order to forward
Right.
through with this, we have to final this. So,
Are you getting feeling better?
I
Are you
just,
getting feeling better? No.
ta-da!
I'm just talking about you and your dad.
Can we have the presentation and then we
Okay.
can close this?
Great. I'm glad to hear
I
that.
picked up something that's for commercial use, that's non-slip, wet rated, all that sort of thing. That there's two different colors that I was going to go down and make sure it's closest to the brick color that's on the sidewalks. And this is a hard fire clay tile that in walking down State Street, I see at several
this was
entrances into
acceptable.
stores.
I figured I've got my two whites.
So which
this
one
is-
are you going to?
This is where it would be.
So basically, to bump up against this, what SEMA will do is I needed to find something that was thinner in profile because we're going to have to jackhammer out the existing concrete to have something, be flush with the brick. So it's.
So what are you proposing?
So I'm proposing this. That matches, what I want to do is take both of these colors and match them up next to the red brick to see which color, the lighter or the darker, works better with the brick. This is just a stair tread. This is not, I'm just showing you this for color and material. And neither of these are the 1/4 inch. This is the 1/2 inch, but they make a 1/4 inch material that looks, it's basically the same thing, only a 1/4 inch thick.
So I'll make a motion that the darker of the tiles presented here today in the 1/4 inch thickness,
Okay, that would be the Tuscan red.
the Tuscan red, be used for the entrance.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? That motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item of business is 222 East Carrillo Street. This is the third concept review.
I only grabbed one set of plans going out of the office, so I'd like to apologize. And I can go back and get 2 more if you would desire that and come back later in a half hour, but I'll leave it up to you.
Those are such big plans. Wow.
A big set of plans.
Oh, my.
Is there an index of
Would you introduce yourself for the record, please?
My name is Richard Redmond from Edwards and Pittman Architects.
Thank you.
I don't have the engineer here with me today per our last meeting, and we did not do any kind of stored poles because the engineer actually made the unit shorter.
So, that's interesting. Yes. we gave you the
And
wherewithal.
honestly, it is now 8'5", and the parapet is 8'1", so it only sticks up. The fan's actually 4 inches above the unit.
How did he manage to do that?
He actually offset the pumps and then took the coils all the way down. So it's amazing what they can do.
Yeah.
When asked.
When
Make a
asked.
motion to approve the equipment as submitted.
I'll second it.
All those in favor? Opposed? Abstain? And who was that engineer? Who is the
It
engineer?
makes me look bad.
Richard, who is the engineer?
It's MEC.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next item of business is 222 West Carrillo Street. Oops, no, I'm a little early. Let's take a 5-minute break.
Oh, thank you. There's M&Ms and carrots.
And somebody has allergies.
Oh my goodness.
What's going on? The trees. Oh. Oh.
We'll never stand on ceremonies.
Which one?
My name is Dan Schultz. I'm with Milestone Management. I'm the applicant representing CVS Pharmacy here today before you to present our project.
Welcome.
And good afternoon. My name is Jesse Guerrero. I'm a operations field manager for CVS Pharmacy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, what you see before you is a request to replace the existing shades that you see in this photograph here along Carrillo Street in the elevation facing the parking lot. These shades that you see there right now are a simulated plastic. They're a plastic reed, kind of like a reed. They've been there before CVS. They acquired all the Save-On drugstores. It's kind of been there since CVS occupied the space. What they'd like to replace them with is photographic images of Santa Barbara. I have with me a sample of the material that would be requested to replace these shades. Each one of the shades would have a different image printed on it, with what, as you see here, with the CVS Pharmacy logo as well. That's what we'd like to have on there. CVS doesn't have a very strong presence on Carrillo Street, so we'd like to see if we could get some additional presence by allowing CVS to have their logo printed on the shades themselves as well.
Okay. Oops. Just put the cup again.
That's pretty much the proposal. There's not a lot to present here, but we're open for any questions.
I will have public comment. Thank you. Would you introduce yourself for the record, Kellerman? Why don't you press that button? There you go. Thanks.
Yes, good afternoon, Kellam DeForest. I just want to know, there's an awful lot of glass there now at what's now the 50th building, the CVS Pharmacy. It used to, of course, be exhibits window space. And first question is, does this conform to the EPB guideline? I don't know whether large photographs are on window shades are part of the guidelines. I don't see why, if there's too much glass, why don't they just fill them in? So thank you, though maybe that isn't the complete answer, but that is an answer. But thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the Commission? Yes? Ms. Boucher.
Sorry.
I want ladies first this time. Madam Boucher?
What makes you think I'm a lady?
I know that.
Okay. What is the letter height?
It varies. We haven't really specified an exact letter height, but these are an average about 24 to 36 inches.
Are you aware of the fact that the city sign ordinance says in El Pueblo Viejo the largest letter is 10 inches?
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you.
We actually, to answer that question in part, we actually brought this before the sign committee, and they didn't quite know how to address this as whether this would be considered a sign or whether we just could have the graphics.
So they sent you to us?
They
Is that
sent
the
it to you. Because they're not affixed to the windows, they're not decals on the windows, they're actually shades, and they would serve a dual purpose. During the late afternoon when the sun is at its brightest, they could pull the shades down. In the evenings, they could pull the shades up and allow the evening light.
Thank you. Any further questions?
Madam Chair. Yes. Can you explain those white discs?
Oh, that's what they call their snowflakes. It basically became kind of an advertisement campaign at one time or another, and they've just decided to keep it through.
They're really distracting. We couldn't figure out last time what they were. If they were just a printing error.
No, we're open to removing those.
Yes, thank you.
Any further questions?
May I ask a question? Do you ever open these? I have never seen them open.
I don't know.
They would probably remain closed.
You know, if you had merchandise in the window, people might know you were there. Because I've talked to a lot of people who haven't the vaguest idea that you're even there.
Yeah. I can speak to that. The merchandise CVS has is toothpaste and products like
sundries.
Yes, sundries, and it's not really something that you'd want to just throw in the window.
Have you ever considered putting awnings in these windows?
This is actually an overhang right here. I don't know that you could get it on.
Okay, that's
here.
right. It is.
Yeah.
It is. So, yeah.
Yes.
Just on the very interior, is there displays and casework that faces the sidewalk? In other words, is this screening anything?
There are some displays that are about 6 feet high along those windows. They've been there ever since the Save-Ons was in operation and CVS acquired it.
And that's the back of the...
Some of them are the back of fixtures, some are the back of the photo lab equipment. So there are some conduits and raceways and wires that would be exposed if we had left them open.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I think I was the one who sent this to you once because I was a little concerned about the sign committee, okay? Being on both. I'm
That's right. That's
the
what I
representative from this commission to the sign committee. And the sign ordinance states that a sign is any visual means of communication. And it strikes me that these are signs. And I don't know how else to put it. That you can't cover that much of your area with signs, according to the sign ordinance. And I don't see how they fit into El Pueblo Viejo, no matter what the images are on them. So I, for one, can't support this.
Either in versus as a sign or as a commissioner at the landmarks? Okay. We've moved into comments.
Madam Chair.
Yes?
I can see just from these photographs, and you know, I go downtown a lot, and I had no idea that this former office equipment company was a pharmacy. So I know that there's a real problem with it's a business concern, you know, and is it possible to instead of I think Commissioner Boucher, if I'm reading you correctly, it's the sign within the window shade.
No, the whole
or the whole thing.
The whole thing makes a sign.
4 feet from the glass.
So in other words, these, even if they were legitimately attractive architectural details of Santa Barbara buildings, they would not be acceptable.
Right. And furthermore, from a business standpoint, I don't know how people would know it was a pharmacy if these were removed and they're obviously in violation of the sign ordinance.
Whether they have the printed word or not. Okay, thank you. The red letter.
ask, I'm sorry, Commissioner Drury, what was your first question about those being in the window? I'm sorry, I missed that. If these graphics were not put on window shades, they actually could display these graphics in the window 10 inches back from the surface of the glass on the inside, and they wouldn't need your approval to do so.
It's more than 10 inches.
4 feet. 4 feet.
4 feet.
4 feet?
4 feet. The original thing in the ordinance was 6 feet.
6 feet, yeah.
What's
That was the one thing we lost.
Because 4 feet.
When we did the graphics at Starbucks on the corner of Coda and State, I thought it was 10 inches.
No, it's for, the purpose is
4
not
feet.
for people not to put signage in the back of a window, of a display window.
So it's 4. So you're saying it's 4 feet?
I think I used to be
I'll look
6
that
or
up
4.
to be
It
sure.
was somewhere in there. That was the idea, not to.
Maybe it's just me. I'm not positive, but I know
Well, then I guess
you're
I'm-
not allowed to cover this much of your windows with signing anyway. So something like a third of your windows.
So I know we're not in the business of helping people merchandise, but there has to be some solution, some relief, because it's a big facade that fronts Carrillo Street,
Yes.
and then the rest of the facade fronts that big parking lot with not Poor Richard's, what is it, Rusty's now.
Rusty's.
I can understand the ordinance.
Yeah.
But then I think it's a question of figuring out a better window treatment that conforms with El Pueblo Viejo guidelines. Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes?
I can remember back when this came, we had the Pythian Lodge structures report and had the discussions about the design of the building. And I remember this was a big part of the discussions back then. I don't remember what the ultimate solution was. I believe it was that they were just going to leave, they were supposed to display merchandise or something like that, but we could dig through the old minutes and see if we could find out what was said at those early meetings, because I remember the specific, you were concerned about this right when they were doing the original project.
Thank you. Mr. Schallenberger?
Seems to me that the question is whether it's a window covering or a sign. And
It's both.
I think Commissioner Boucher, is correct in terms of the definition. So then if it's a sign, there are guidelines for signage, and clearly it doesn't meet that. But as a window covering, I mean, it's no worse than some cheap bamboo reed thing. It's not really that. It's just I don't feel like I have the authority to approve something that's not in the guidelines, I guess, is my point.
As a window covering, I think we have to meet the guidelines.
Yes.
What a window covering on a Spanish building would look like.
Drapes.
It would not look like that. It would
Right.
not have photographs. I can tell you that part.
So,
Well, I think the problem it exists right now is the fact that the windows are covered all the time and nobody knows you're there.
Right, that's a big problem for CBS as well. Nobody knows
So
it's
if you could find a way to move some of the equipment in there and have something that would work as display. And you could have window signing, but just nothing this huge.
Well, if the checkout counter were where the magazines are, then that whole area of windows could be, people can actually be able to see down the aisles, which would, not only would it make visibility for people driving by realize that there's a store there, it would provide security for the store because the police would be able to see the way it is now. You're in there, if that place was getting robbed, nobody would know. So I mean, maybe just a little reorganization on the inside might help.
That's the photo area, is it not? Right here, the photo counter.
That's photo processing equipment, and this is the 72-inch gondola that backs up to the window.
Right, which is
Right.
I think there's some, if I'm not mistaken, there's some sunshine issues. I think the sun comes streaming through that side of the building in the afternoon. I'm not sure. I would have to hang out, but there's some solar issues there.
somebody like to make a motion?
I make a motion to deny the application because it does not meet the guidelines of the Pueblo Viejo.
Second.
Who seconded?
Mr. Drury. All those in favor?
Aye. I abstain.
Abstain. That motion carries. Okay.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Sorry.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I know we've voted on the motion, and I'm assuming, hopefully, that you will come back with an application that's a little different than this. But would it be possible, from the commissioner's standpoint, to say completely opaque some of these windows so that they can get their equipment behind it, but it's not showing, and then have the rest of them just, see through, taking into account some of the sun shading factors? I guess the question is, would it be possible, from the commission standpoint, to opaque some of these windows? Maybe
Opaque
20.
in what way?
I don't know. I don't know.
Let me ask you if the commission would be opposed to maybe leaving the upper portion clear, the upper portion of this clear, and putting in maybe a solid shade color on the lower portion of it.
You still wouldn't be able to see in the window.
Well, what do you do at the State Street location, the 700 block, or I think it is, or...
I think it has a higher...
That is a higher plaster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's probably they're clear story windows.
That's right. But isn't there a display in there? I mean, advertising display.
They do have some traditional like a bar with some kind of drapery below and above open.
And above open.
It has to be something that looks historic. We are the Historic Landmarks Commission.
Drapery.
I think you're onto something with that, is screening out the lower portion. And if I'm correct, I think it's a 1/3, 2/3 sort of relationship. So you might look into that.
Okay. We'll
Yeah, I mean, we want to try to help you, and this is a very visible building. We like CVS there. I mean, nobody has a problem with that. I think it's a great location. We need to work with you, and we're trying to do that, but we can't approve something that is
Against our guidelines.
Yeah.
Understood.
That's the way it is.
All right.
We'll be back.
Well, thank you for your
Thank
time.
you.
Thank you.
I'm going to break again for 10 minutes.
Is this an M&M break or a carrot break?
Would you like to introduce yourself for the record? If I understand it, these are new landscape changes, correct?
Yes.
So why do we need Mr. Becker?
Because he has got the previous accepted.
But we do too, do we not?
Okay, but I don't have them here, and he is supposed to be here.
I have the original set of plans, if you'd like to look at those.
Can we just have him present?
Yes, that's what I'm going to ask him to do.
My name is Jim Melnick. These are my drawings for Rick and Sue Nash. And the house is a historic house, and what we try to do is try to incorporate into the landscape all of the elements of the house as refined as the house is. The house is a very tailored, very, very elegant house. And so we try to keep a certain amount of symmetry in the front going up to the house. The house once was a much larger lot, and so the house takes up a lot of the landscape itself. So we kept the front very much in tune with what was originally there. Kept the symmetry.
Oh, would you, there we go. All right.
Come on down.
Hi, Peter.
This is the previous.
I think he's probably got
You
it.
got the
He was
corrected,
coming because he was
drawings
saying
up
that
to
he
the-
had them, and I said, we have them too.
Okay.
All right.
Probably should look at the approved set, though, that we looked at, because if he had a different set and didn't realize it, then this is the actual set that was approved by you guys.
Okay.
And if this is an update to what we had been submitted before, I want to get rid of these.
Okay, this is the set that was shows what was approved before. If you'd like to talk about the changes comparatively from what we approved, and so we'll know what we're approving.
Okay.
Would you like to fold it in half so you can show half to half, or how would you like to do this?
Yeah, essentially,
What are the changes, in the front or the back?
the major changes are
All back here?
they're in the back.
Okay. It looks like the driveway has changed.
What we did was we gave them a little bit more of a hammerhead over into here with a gate reflecting the architecture of the house across here. But also we have a ficus knitted a hedge along the back edge here to hide any car activities here from this part of the house. We try to keep the edge of the house fairly personal. Went to a rose garden in the back here and a cutting garden across this area in here. We're just not going to do anything with this because they said gravel or mulch is okay back in this. There's no water use back in here because they won't use that area of the house. We have a terrace that is going to be used as a dining terrace for them. It is on the level as it is at the house right now, because there's an existing staircase here that goes down into the cellar, and we're keeping it at that level all the way through, and give them a dining terrace. And a set of stairs going up through a camellia walk there without any structures in it. We plan to go
Because you had vine arbors before?
There were vine arbors here before, and they're not there now. And my feeling on it was when we looked at the house is strong enough to be able to hold it without any more busyness going on across and through here. We want to just keep it architecturally fairly simple and clean. This area here is going to be a rose garden. We did call at one point for a lawn area over in here, but now we're just going to go for a rose garden, which will be decided. There's going to be a cut flower area along in here to the garage in the back.
Sir, you have these new plans. They were rolled up. Would you like to pass these? Have the rose garden on them?
Yeah, these do here.
They may want to see.
We need 3 sheets of what you're showing.
Oh, yeah.
One here
Okay.
and then one on each
Okay,
side.
you have one here. The other sheet we had to change just because of the city demand for a turf report, percentage of turf. And we had called for lawns in the back here because they talked to me about doing a rose garden, but we weren't sure whether she wanted to do a flower garden back there or not. So we had on the previous plans that you just got before this, putting a rose garden back in here instead of a lawn to keep our turf requirements down.
Mr. Melnick, could you be pointing here for the TV audience and for the public? Thank you.
This sheet is superseded.
This one is superseded, yes.
The only thing I want to make sure the commission is aware of is this fountain.
Right here.
Yes.
Had been X'd off of the previous drawing because it is in the setback.
That's right. That's right. And that's going to be X'd off on here also. And we're going to go for a modification if we can. But it'll be X'd off on here.
Well, I was using that as a comparison, so that you could tell us what had changed from our previous
I'm not quite sure
approval
what camera is
to
my
our
problem.
current change, so we have some idea of what the change is.
Okay, the changes, you do have a path along here now. It's going to be a camellia walk, a camellia japonica walk across here, and simplified with box along the edge and no structures along here at all. So there'll be a clean shot right to the hedgerow in here. And we're trying to keep this as open as possible. Give them. This is the only area of the house as far as it's very, very personal and private because the front of the house is fairly formal.
Is this fence still in place?
There's no fence there. No.
In your
We're putting
proposed?
No, we're putting the ficus near to the hedge along these edges here to hide the driveway from the windows of the house on both sides.
So you're taking this out?
This is gone, and this is, well, it's somewhat hidden already here. There's a gate over here, which we don't have. We're including a trash area back in this one spot in the corner here. Right here.
Where was it before?
Actually, there was no provision for it on this drawing as far as I can see. It's just going to be a cement pad hidden from the street so that they can get to the trash, and the trash can be put there. It's all enclosed with hedges.
No fence.
No fence. There's a fence that's along the edge of the property here right now, but no fence along it here. It's going to be columns remain as they are. We did this to protect the oaks, the existing live oaks here and here. Put a hammerhead in here so they can get in and out of the garage. So you have a turnaround. I would rather not have them go underneath the oaks myself. So this becomes a fenced a wall with a gate on it, which is this.
So this has changed also?
Well, there's a cutting garden on. We called out this is a cutting garden area here, and we're keeping that concept in here. There's a door that comes out.
The path has changed?
The path has changed to come onto the stair right here alongside the building, so you can get from the garage into the kitchen. This comes up into the kitchen this way. Your access either will come from the garage from this way, through the driveway, through this gate, down to the kitchen this way. So if they want to park the car here, they can come this way. Let her take her groceries. You can let her groceries out here and come in this way. Still keep the protection of hiding the vehicles.
Can we move to the front changes?
Mm-hmm. Just want to be clear, what has changed and what has not.
And basically what we did in the front here, the only change that was made, the palms are in. We have the ligustrum hedge coming along the whole front through here. It goes all along the side. And in here, instead of having a double staircase coming down here, this was just a roll coming down. It was a little bit too much we thought it was a little bit too much for the front of the house. We just went ahead and we want to continue the wall across here and here, and just make a step down area into two hydrangea beds here and here, instead of just being this big broad area across the whole front here. Before it was just a roll down coming down through. There was no wall or anything across the point. Yeah. So what we did is we just close it off and then just leave this as two areas on either side that are symmetrical to the front of the house.
Did you not move this tree? I mean,
the tree was
there's a
not there.
difference. Yeah.
There's no tree. We put in two Magnolia grandiflora St. Mary's, which is a small version of the regular grandiflora, dark, to keep the symmetry going here and here, because the property stops here very, very abruptly, and we're just trying to keep this symmetry on both sides going up to the house.
Are you also adding some trees on the street?
Yeah, there's a few that were once there, because it's part of the march of the Cocopomoses. We want to add a few in on either side here going in to keep this march going. These cocos are getting very, very old, and some of them have been have died or got removed over the years. So we still have our hitching posts in here, and then two more trees here and here.
And you're removing these citrus in pots?
I'd like to put citrus in pots on either side here, just to kind of give it an opening.
So that is still in there?
No, there's none in here at all.
I see, but you're proposing. Okay,
yeah,
I'm getting, yes.
It's just to keep the strength of that axial view up to the front door, the symmetry all the way up.
Okay.
Are we in question?
I'm going to ask for public comment, since there's nobody. Oh, yes, I do. I'm sorry, you were waiting patiently. Mr. DeForest.
Yes, Kellum DeForest. Oh, excuse me? Thank you. Kellum DeForest. Just a couple of questions. At one time, and I don't see it here, there was a very, but maybe it's there. There was a wrought iron gate in front.
Yeah.
Is it still there?
Yes.
Yeah.
right
Okay.
here.
Thank you. Because this being a historic house, it's not, and especially on Santa Barbara Street, it's nice to see it, at least for the public to see it. But as you go around to the back, I don't know. So is a fountain still proposed? That's my next question, because I
Right
don't
now,
know.
we're going to go for a modification for it at some point, but right now, we're not going for that right now.
Okay. Thank you.
We'll go to questions from the commission, please.
Yeah. First question: Where is your setback along Islay? How far does that go back?
So along Islay here, from here to here, where is the setback in that area?
It's a 30 feet one.
Certainly doesn't go
From is that from center edge of right of way?
It would be from the
Property line.
From the property line. Okay. So 30 feet would.
The house itself is inside the setback.
So it's
It's
sort
legal,
of
house is
legal
on-
non-conforming on the Islay
Legal
side of the street.
non-conforming.
So
Okay, just
the
so-
house itself is in the setback. It's a 30-foot set. It's 2 front yard setbacks because they're on a corner.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Question. Jim, how are you proposing to anchor those wrought iron gates? You show some columns there, but you don't talk about what those columns are anywhere that I could see.
Those columns there would be the same as this sort of column. There's a lot of paneling
Sandstone.
across the front of the house. I would do sandstone in these two places in here and here. They've got the wrought iron gates are already they've got to be added onto it.
So those then paneled sandstone columns would sit up here, and they would be different dressing, different tooling than these.
Yeah, these are a little bit more
Rusticated,
rusticated, squared stone along and through here, and these as you get up to the house itself, the front of the house, the whole front of this is all paneled sandstone all the way through here. And it just seems like it would be just a nice to bring the house toward the street.
So then those columns would be sandstone or
Yes,
sandstone?
it'd be sandstone.
Okay. Let me ask you, what is this curlicue plant that you've drawn here?
That is Pitocrassifolia compacta.
Pitcrest, okay.
That's just for a little bit of a
Small
color.
shrub,
It's
and
a
so
rounded
formal.
mound that
Okay,
is
got it.
along the base of the
So we-
ligustrums, just to give a little contrast in color.
Now, over here in this section, you have concrete squares. Is that concrete matching some existing concrete
There's
up here, or
concrete
what's the
here,
thinking?
there's concrete squares all the way through this
Existing.
All
here.
of this is in here too.
Right.
They used a lot of concrete all the way through this, and in the back here we're calling this concrete in the back also.
So if you go to this area off that front porch,
Yes,
what happens here? Just stand out there and walk back?
that's all you can do. Yeah, it's either that or you can go back through this way here. But it seemed like when we talked about it, it just seemed to keep a clear line with the box for the cross here going up to the house
Okay.
to keep a clean look on that axis.
And then the canariensis you're still keeping the
Yes.
two canariensis
Yes.
in front.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Mr. Dury.
The item number 4 on the plan, stairs removed from front, I think in both those sections on opposite or either side of the main entrance, were they stairs that went right down through?
They were on the previously approved plan.
There are stairs shown here.
There are stairs added here. These are existing stairs here and here
Right.
are existing. These were not in there, and these were added in. And what we proposed that when you started to come up to the house, it just seemed like an awful lot of stair. It'd be just to simplify it. We wanted a wall across here like this. Leave the stair in here because this is part of the existing structure of that main terrace of the house.
These are not here present day.
No.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I should have seen that list. So these are what you consider to be the changes.
These are just
They're only-
notes that we really wanted to be seen. when we brought this in, yes. These are,
But do you consider this an inclusive list of the changes? Because this is a sheet that we will be approving.
yes. I mean, compared to what is in here, these are the changes that I did off of what was approved before on here. But these are the notes on those.
Madam Chair? Just have a quick comment for the landscape architect. Sir?
Yes.
The wrought iron gate fronting Santa Barbara Street,
Yes.
is that over 3.5 feet in height? It's because it's in the setback, so nothing can be over 3.5 feet tall.
I don't think it's over 3.5 feet. It's a very low gate, but it's an old gate, an old wrought iron gate that was part of the package when I came on to do the revisions on this complied with. It's not a tall one by any means. It's a very short one.
I know, but
I don't think it's more than 3.5 feet.
it can't exceed 42 inches tall within 10 feet of a front property line. So I can give you a handout when you leave.
But the front gate was approved already.
Okay, so this is not a change then?
Not a change. No, it's not a change. It's,
Okay, well, why are we talking about it then?
I don't know. It was brought up.
If it's
brought up the idea of the
previously,
gate. There.
if it's something that already had an approval, then
Yeah, I guess I was the one that brought it up because I was talking about the columns that are anchoring
This was
those.
previously approved, and those are the gates that are there now and given to me.
And this certainly isn't what's shown on the drawings.
No, there's a wall. This is showing a wall, existing adjacent sandstone wall, not columns. So there is a change, or is there a change?
The only thing that I brought into here was these two piers here to hold the gates up and the ligustrum hedge coming up to them. Now, I don't, on this, let's take a look back there at the original.
It's showing two piers, but...
It's showing two piers. It does not show a wall there. It shows two piers here, the same as what I've done.
But Mr. Melnick, the detail does show two walls and calls out. There's no...
There's a two walls over here, I think. It's
Two posts.
It's confusing.
There's two very short walls coming in on this pair on Islay.
Okay,
That's what the detail.
M. That's detail ML4. What's that detail? What did it say?
N, L1.
Okay, so L1. Okay, then we need to look at that one. No, detail N, L1. I don't see the detail N, L1.
No.
So maybe it's on L4.
Oh, I'm sorry, L4.
Okay. N as in Nancy.
Yes.
So we need to know what those columns look like, how tall those columns are, if those columns conform to the
That would
ordinance.
be N, L4.
There we go. Okay, those columns.
Those are 4-6.
Those columns do not conform to the ordinance, so somehow they got approved at 4-6.
See, I was told this was all approved.
I understand.
Yeah.
We're just trying to chase it down.
Anything. I'm
Yeah.
just telling you that this. But
did you pull a building permit for this yet? Did you pull a building permit for that already permitted work?
I haven't.
Okay,
but yet
if it
shows-
hasn't been issued a building permit, then when
I
this
know,
goes
but it
through
also
plan check, that will
shows,
be
where
caught.
do I see piers?
Anything that doesn't comply
but
with the
he's
zoning
showing them
ordinance
in
will be caught.
plan.
And the same with the wrought iron gate,
It exists present day.
sir.
I think
If
they're
the-
working on the gates already, but I don't know. I don't know exactly.
If the wrought iron gates were existing many years ago, it's probably something that
No.
wouldn't have a permit in the file, but if that was something that was added in between,
I know. There's a very
that will also come up.
low.
So you would need to provide proof of permit of the wrought iron gate.
Susan, those, in terms of 10-foot back,
Yes.
I think those taller columns meet that requirement. This is drawing as 1A scale, so just
So are those-
kind of, I don't know, I don't have a scale exactly, but it looks like it's right back of that 10-foot mark.
It's back of it. Okay, good. That's good.
So there's a reason for that. It's just confusing.
It is.
What do you got?
If the property line, excuse me, if the back of the sidewalk is the property line, then we are 14 feet back, so we're good.
So we're good.
Because I'm assuming that's a 10-foot, yeah. Okay. So now we're clear then on those wrought iron gates, and they can be 4'6". They are approved, so this commission reviewing it has nothing to say about them.
Okay. They meet requirements.
Nothing's here.
Oh, they're 14 feet back from the property line?
From assuming that that's the property line.
The property line is the inside of the sidewalk.
Back of the sidewalk.
Awesome.
Okay.
Okay. So this commission has nothing to say about those.
Okay. Are there any other questions from the commission? If there are none, let's go to comments.
I have two comments. One is, I think we need to change the listing of the architect as Peter Becker instead of Peter Cavoyan. Is that correct?
Oh, was it so?
Okay, so that would be my first comment. My second comment is if the applicant decides to pursue a modification regarding the fountain on the setback due to the burden of an excessive setback on Isley Street, I would be in support of that. Thank you.
Madam Chair?
You know what? Excuse me. I don't think you should make a comment on something that's not proposed.
It's listed in the plans.
On what? As what?
They've deleted it.
It's fountain.
That's deleted.
No, it's been crossed off.
It's deleted. Crossed off.
Cross it off. That's what I asked them to do at the counter when they brought it in.
Crossed off here.
We're crossing on this, on the new plan.
So what we're going to give you should be crossed off, correct? This is being...
Correct. And it shouldn't be commented on. It's
All
not
right.
part of this project.
Madam Chair, please scratch my signature.
I will. Thank you. Okay. Any other comments?
Madam Chair, I haven't
Yes.
made mine yet.
Yes.
I like the plan. I have no problem with the plan. I do, unfortunately, have a problem with the wrought iron gates along Santa Barbara Street or at the front of Santa Barbara Street. I don't think they're appropriate, but it's a done deal, unfortunately. And then the only other issue I have is the wall at the intermediate terrace that you are proposing, where you called the hydrangea garden. So you're making a flat space up there. I would prefer it to remain as is, where it rolls down to the lawn. I think it just serves to integrate the house and the terrace into the front landscape a lot better than putting a wall there.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, one last comment. And I don't think that the citrus in the pots on the intermediate landing above the sidewalk along Santa Barbara Street are appropriate either.
Thank you.
Excuse me. Could I just point out? May I please point out that this is a historical landmark. This is a historical landmark and has different criteria to change the changes from its historic design need really to have overwhelming reasons for change. And I think that's what Commissioner Suding is trying to point out, that the gates, the pots, do not fit the historic nature of the design of this very important house. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DePorce. Yes, that I concur.
Further comments?
Yeah, I'm going to make a comment. Okay, I see, in terms of the front walkway and the front facade, I see no reason why you're adding steps off that porch down.
They're there already. They've been there. They're historic. Those were there.
Those were there?
They were there.
Sorry.
They were there.
I thought they were being proposed. Okay.
No, the other
In any
ones,
case,
they were added
okay,
in.
so my comment to that is, if you're going to do that, make a place for people to walk down, add a traditional bench down there as seating opportunity somewhere on that side. I think that would work better. The camellias could be quite beautiful, but I'd almost ask the landscape architect to explore something with the flowers that are a little bit more drought tolerant on that side. Did you think about roses or?
The shade factor is pretty strong along that one side.
The shade factor.
The shade factor is very strong there. It's one reason why we want to do the roses back up in here, because this is the most light area we've got. There's a lot of shade, because this is directly south this way, and that's the north side of the house.
Okay, so this is the shady side. But again, I would look also for a seating opportunity on this journey behind this hedge. Again, I think what's missing is a little bit of traditional comfort seating along the journey. So I'm just saying explore those opportunities for some traditional, simple seating through your gardens. And actually, I want to say I really like the change from lawn to roses. I think this will work quite nicely. The only thing I would say is make sure the roses are minimum 5-gallon size.
Okay.
These could be specimen roses. That's going to be really nice. And then the driveway I also like, because it really responds to the oak that they're saving back here. So I appreciate that schematic scooting around there. That being said, I think actually this plan is an improvement over the last thing. The last plan was pretty good, but this is even a little better. So, and I appreciate you limiting the lawn. We all need to pay attention to water conservation.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
May I request a straw vote on the, I'll have to call it the intermediate walls between the front staircase and the existing posts on either side of the front walk. So it's this wall here. I better point here.
Yes.
It's this wall here and this wall here.
Before we do the vote, that was going to be my comment.
I'm sorry. I thought somebody was going to make a motion. I heard that happen.
I wanted to jump in before we did that.
Commissioner Schellenberg.
I'm keeping in mind that we're comparing an existing approved plan with a new approved plan, and I like it's a totally different approach in that area that we're talking about. One is creating essentially two little private patios. There's no circulation anymore. Previously it was a terrace that was open all around, complete circulation, and now we have two private little patios there. So I can understand and appreciate the comment for maybe a bench or some site furnishing there. That's I think entirely up to you. But my comment really is that I don't think this really rises to the level of some great alteration that is impacting the historic structure. And I can support the plan as submitted in its current configuration, given that it is two separate patios. I think that's kind of what's happening here. Is that correct? So,
what we're trying to do is this: is when we had there was a rolled lawn, and once again, this is more lawn area that once again impacts the amount of lawn we're going to have.
Right.
But also, when the house is the nature of the face of the house is that with all those stairs, if the lot was not as big as it once was, you could almost see this grand amount of stairs coming down. This previous plan that was approved had a lot of stairs coming off the house, almost to nothing, scale-wise, and that's why we closed them off.
And that's why I
and we
opened
did a little bit more intimacy for the front of the house, too, because the lot has been shrunk so much for this grand house.
But that's why I opened up with the discussion about a previously approved plan versus what we have here now. And I think this is better, personally. I do, in these landscape plans, defer to Commissioner Suding and Adams and their expertise, but I have to say, it's two different approaches. It's one or the other. And frankly, I don't think that I don't see any violation in terms of guidelines or sensitivity to the existing historic structure. This is a design question that is solely the applicant's purview, essentially. I mean, they're not in violation of anything in terms of guidelines or regulation. So I wouldn't want to tell you to roll this or to put stairs here. That, I feel, is your decision, unless there was some violation. And I don't see that violation here.
Thank you. Yes?
Could we ask Commissioner Murray to talk a little bit about the possibility of cumulative impacts and whether you think that's an issue here with so much stuff being changed on the site?
Yeah, it's the cumulative impacts of what an addition to a garden should be is to enhance what was traditional there, what was original in there, and to respect that approach to that building. So that would be my only comment, but I don't have any specific direction on how to do it. But it should respect, whatever new plans you have traditionally, you want that to enhance that rather than coming up with a whole new scheme. That's all. I'm sure the landscape architects can see that.
And the introduction of the wall between those two existing columns is not a problem from your perspective. I'm not, I guess, from a historic perspective, not just your perspective. So the addition of these two walls from here to here and here to here. I mean, we haven't even looked at those walls and what those walls are. So,
right.
I mean,
You have coming from here to here. Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
We did when there was a stair in
There's
there
stair.
okay.
and four
But
walls
it,
instead of two.
it is now a different project without those stairs there. And granted, I did not review that previously submitted and previously approved, so I am at a handicap here. But I guess, Mr. Melnick, I'm just having a real issue with changing the feel of the approach to that house, that very formal. I don't know any other way to describe it. I just have a problem with changing the approach, and I feel that the introduction of a low wall is substantially changing that formality there.
Mr. Suding, may I ask you to float a motion? Mr. Melnick, there really should be no dialogue during our comments. And Mr. Schellenberger asked you a question during his comment, which is why I allowed it. But at the moment, let's have our comments. And if you'd like to float a motion, let's
Madam
do so.
Chair, I am not going to float a motion because I can't support the project as it is. So.
Okay. Would someone else like to float a motion?
Yeah, to me, let me just weigh in on this. I don't think the wall is as necessary as the designer thinks it is. I think that could roll down from the planting bed. I don't see a big issue there. You are still going to have to mow a lawn. Why put a lawn right up against the wall? Anyway, it's nice to have a landscape buffer, so why do you even need the wall? I'm going to side with Mr. Suding that it could roll up and be a benefit to the maintenance of this garden. I don't think you need that wall.
Are you going to make a motion to that effect?
Yeah,
May I make a comment before you?
All right.
Well, I would comment I would support Commissioner Schellenberger's comments. I think it's a design thing. I think it's discretionary. I think, in my opinion, a low wall like that would actually accentuate the lines of the house. So I would support that wall. Thank you.
Are there any further comments?
Okay, I'm going to make a motion to accept the project as submitted with the following comments: that the planting bed in front roll down to the existing lawn, on both sides of the front walkway, so as not changing the historic formal nature of the entrance. And I'm going to say that the addition of the rose garden in lieu of lawn area is supportable and actually commendable. I am, what was the other? Oh, that the citrus pots at the front along Santa Barbara Street be removed, and that informal seating opportunities are utilized in the front, as well as the camellia garden along Islay Street.
I'll second the motion.
Is there any discussion on this motion?
Yes, I want to know, is this the final approval or the preliminary, or
This is a
have to go
revision
back?
This is a review after final, correct, so it would just be approval of it.
So it will be a final approval.
Well, is the applicant
Of the review after
okay
final.
with these changes?
May I make a comment?
Well-
or answer that?
If we approve it, it's not what they submitted, so.
Well, that doesn't do that often.
That's happens a lot.
Yeah.
I know, are you okay with that?
The only thing I would want to see is some confirmation of the irrigation plan. Not that you have to redraw it. It seems like it's going to be the same, but we need to know it's going to be irrigated and maintained.
Or something to that effect.
That's the thing that's missing.
Yes, Mr. Becker, you have been,
He asked me a question.
yes, you're right.
One thing to keep in mind is that this house used to be on a much bigger lot, which Jim was talking about.
Yes.
And there's stairs that go down to nowhere. And there's this certain amount that we felt that the house needed to be a little bit more enclosed and be a little bit more appropriate to its smaller site. So it doesn't look like it's a whacked off garden, which it really is. And the owner and Jim and all of us felt very strongly, actually, that the walls really did seem to help to do that. And it was a very, very deliberate, thought out choice that they made. And I think to the extent that if it could be kept there, then maybe some planting could go in front of it if you felt that you didn't want to see it. I can certainly understand your point of view, but that is the point of view of the owner. And he's taking very good care of this house and trying to do the right thing. And I much appreciate your point of view that there are some places where you ought to give an owner a chance to do what he thinks is the right thing, along with getting all of our advice as well. But if you could maybe modify that with maybe a little planting in front to make the walls less severe, if you think that that's the case, you'd be happy to do that. But I just want to make that one statement.
Thank you.
Yes. I wanted to know, these walls that we're talking about, are these two, are they about 30 inches tall? Is that what we're talking about? Those two, right? This piece right here, and that
Can I
one
make
right
a
there.
comment on that? There's a wall that comes along through here now. There's an existing wall here and an existing wall here.
I see.
They are rusticated squared stone along through here with a pillar and a pillar. And this is open through here. It rolls up. And this wall here is an exact replica of this wall here. There's a wall coming out here projecting away from the house. And as we said, as Peter just said, what we try to do is give a little bit more intimacy to a place that once was a much larger.
The height of that wall is about
30 inches.
30 inches.
Right here.
Above the lawn.
Above the lawn, yeah. It's a very low one.
I don't have a problem with the wall.
Let's do a straw vote.
Why don't you just,
Okay, I'm going to change my motion. I'm going to say,
why don't you vote? There was a second, there was a
Yes,
motion
I'm going to ask
and
for
a
a vote on
second.
this. Correct.
okay,
All those in favor of the motion?
aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
So only 4 people voted.
All those in favor?
The motion is to take the walls out.
Yes. All those in favor, there were 2 ayes.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Nay.
Or nay.
That motion fails. Shall we have another motion?
So,
Nobody,
so
somebody's not
there's
voting.
8 of you. 2 voted against it, so 6, 4 and 6 are against it.
I'm against it.
6 are against it.
Okay,
Against the motion.
who's for it? Raise your hands. Who?
I'm for it.
Adams and Boucher. Then all the rest are Adams and Boucher. 4. Okay.
They get confused.
So the motion fails.
Yes. Please.
To accept the report, accept the plans with the, how would we word the sticking point of the wall?
To add planting in front of the wall. I mean, yeah, if that's the way the commission wants to go, then that's what you would say.
But there are other comments too.
Yeah.
Seating opportunities, things like that.
Citrus in the pods.
So same motion that failed, only with the change that
Planting in front of the wall.
Planting in front
or just the wall?
All those in favor of that motion?
what? Wait.
I have final approval with the following conditions. There shall be planting in front of the wall. That's one comment. And then I'm taking some of the comments from
Yes,
the previous motion
correct.
that failed. All of them.
All the other comments, but what kind of planting do you want? How tall and which wall? What you need to identify the wall.
The 2 walls facing Santa Barbara Street.
Thank you.
The 2 low 30-inch walls that were added facing Santa Barbara Street.
Santa Barbara Street. And so planting, you're going to leave that how much and what size and what kind? Just leave that up to the applicant.
Ground cover or shrub?
Well,
Ground covers or shrubs?
Ground cover and shrubs.
Or shrubs.
Or shrubs.
That's my motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
So everybody voted for it and
One
voting was against?
Yes.
Great, motion.
That motion carries.
I make a motion for adjournment.
Thank you.
I second that motion.